Hi, it's Toy Soldiers here, coming with another deck profile for Pauper Felicia, built off Chaos. For those of you who don't know her first enhance, if you add your attack to your momentum during the end phase, it's a free enhance. We're going to get that every single time, so it's great. E, your kick, punch, or slam attack gets +3 speed. If you have 2 or more momentum, if it deals damage, your next check this turn gets +2. So we built this deck a little bit more off the first enhance because that first enhance is more reliable than that second enhance. The second enhance takes a little bit of time to set up. Then we get the speed all the time, which is great, but the card loop that we get off it isn't as reliable either because our opponent can always block stuff. So we built it a little bit more geared around the first enhance on her. The second enhance we're going to get it off quite often as well, but we're just not going to focus the deck around that second one. So let's get into it. For our attacks, we are running 4 Luminous Illusion from the Lilith starter. I know it's not a kick, punch, or slam, so we're not going to get the speed pump off it, but it has this brilliant enhance on it. Reveal your momentum, add 1 attack with printed damage of 3 or less from your momentum to your hand. Your control checks play copies of that attack at +2 for the rest of this turn. So what's amazing about it is that we're always looking at our momentum, we're grabbing stuff out of our momentum, we're recurring attacks, we're able to kind of pick the blocks that we need depending on what kind of deck our opponent's playing. It's a really solid card. It does have the 2 check on it. It's a little bit riskier, but we're playing really low difficulty cards in this deck. It's very spammy, so this card really shouldn't come up that often. Also, this card just puts on brutal damage once your opponent runs out of blocks. I landed quite a big chunk of damage with this thing using reprogramming, so really good card in this deck. And then for the first target for Luminous Illusion, we're running 4 Rolling Scratches. Slam, stun 1, +1 mid block, fantastic. It's got all the numbers to be a luminous target. If the check to play the stack was modified, it gets +1 damage, +1 speed. So I usually get this a little bit more off reprogramming than I do off Felicia's speed, but hey, it's there. So yeah, just kind of bread and butter barragey stuff. We're also running 4 copies of Merry Turn. Again, it's a weapon. We're not going to get that speed pump off it, but it's got a +1 low block. It's tutorable with Luminous Illusion. It's we can use Fulfilled in Battle on it. We can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. So, and it's really easy to kind of sculpt a couple copies of this thing to get that enhance off, where you get +2/+2 if you manage to play 2 copies of it. So, really good card again for our sort of attack lineup. We're also running 4 copies of Toy Touch. This card is just incredible value. 2 difficulty, it's got the 1+ high that we're looking for to cover all of our blocks now on our attacks. Add 1 foundation to your hand. If you have 2 or more momentum, this attack gets +2 damage, +2 speed. And then obviously if you have the 2 momentum, you're also going to get the +3 speed off Felicia, so you're looking at a 7 low for 4 on a 2 difficulty. Like, this card's just incredible, so love this thing to death. And then to fill out our attack lineup, we are also running 4 copies of Cat Spike. Now, this card's just really great numbers. It's just a really good card. It's got the flash effect. If this deck deals damage, next time you play a foundation this turn, add it to your staging area. It really helps lubricate the other cards. You can flash in stuff that you need. It's just really handy tech stuff. If you ever want to move this deck past a Pauper deck, even just into a budget, the one rare that I would add in here that would make this deck just a little bit better would be to replace your 4 Cat Spikes with 4 Rolling Uppercuts. And the only reason why I say that is because this card is, again, it's going to be a luminous target. It's going to be a target for all our other kind of Lilith support that we're running, and it works as a really good tail end finisher. But if you can't get your hands on 4 Rolling Uppercuts, obviously the 4 Cat Spikes really good. So it's got another +1 block, and again, great numbers on it. It turns into a 6 high for 5 once you get Felicia running, and then you can start flashing foundations in, which helps lubricate your kill turn. So this card isn't bad at all either. Getting into our actions, we are running 4 copies of Bounce and Roll. Every time I was playtesting, this card just put in so much work. It's kind of like a hand version of Powerful Assassin. You can just add a face-up foundation back to your hand, flash this thing back down. The other thing that's incredible about this is that when you mix it with Powerful Assassin, you can kind of get yourself a little soft readying effect out of it, which I'll show you when we get later on in the profile. But it's also got this amazing enhance on it. Your next check this turn gets +X. X equals your momentum ×2. So it's really easy to pick this thing up with a Powerful Assassin after you've thrown it into your staging area. Then you can use it to play really late chain, like a late chain Luminous Illusion, which will let you grab another attack, and then Luminous lubricates that attack as well. Like, just some really cool, techie, quirky things you can do with this. +1 low block. It's only 1. It's got a 5 check. Great card. Love it. We're also running 2 copies of reprogramming. This thing was basically just a kill button when I was playing with it. Once I threw this thing down, then you throw 5 attacks afterwards and people just roll over and die. Everything in our deck The little stuff shares 2 symbols. Obviously, Felicia shares 3, so it just makes all your attacks devastating, and you can just string them out like crazy because they're low difficulty to start with, and then getting the +2 to check to get on them, it's just disgusting. Getting into our foundations, we are running 3 copies of Surveyor, because why the heck not? I chose not to run 4. 4 just seemed like a little bit excessive. 3 was perfect. Just add that momentum back to your hand. As long as you can remember where your stuff is, you can just grab whatever the stink you want. Luminous Illusion's great for that too, because you're always looking at it. Your low attack gets +3 damage. Really, that's only going to hit on the toy touch, but that's still there, and it's good because we're kind of hungry for damage a bit in the Felicia deck. We're also running, like I said, 3 copies of Powerful Assassin. This card's just too good in this deck not to run. You can play some really fun tricks when you're playing with your bounce and roll. Like say you've got your Surveyor committed and you've got a face down bounce and roll, you know, rather than just picking up a Surveyor, picking up, if this had a block, sorry, rather than just picking this up, you can pick this up, then play it to pick this thing back up, and at least you're getting a ready foundation out of it while you're picking stuff up from your staging area. So it's kind of a weird little quirky interaction. Also, it's damage when we need damage. It just lets us pick up blocks. It's just amazing utility. I love this card. We're also running 4 copies of A World Unprepared. 2+ block that we can pick up with Powerful Assassins. Nothing to complain about. It's a spammy little card. It also gives us a little bit of that control that we kind of need in a Pauper Chaos deck. Once you get yourself into desperation, you can just seal a foundation on your opponent's side, which is really, really, really handy. Yeah. Chaos doesn't have too many tools, especially in the Pauper category for targeted control, so this card really puts in work. 2 copies of Unrecruited Friendship. This thing is basically just our momentum sculptor. Whenever we hit with any of our attacks, we can just discard one momentum and then choose one of our attacks in our grave, put it into our momentum face up, thankfully, so we can always know where it is, always know what it is, and then you know, scoop it up with your Surveyor or whatever else, right? It's also really good because then you can use, I was using this thing just to throw Luminous back into my momentum every time, even if I was checking it out, and then, you know, grabbing my Luminous with my Surveyor and then using that played Luminous to grab another attack. So it was just really, really good value. We're also playing 4 copies of Agile. I didn't love this card too much at first, but being able to pick it up with a Powerful Assassin, block with it, and then commit a foundation to flash back down, that was great. Being able to just chew up breakers with it, so you're playing your attack string, someone's stinking breaker 3s you because, you know, they're cheating. Playing all those stupid enhanced cards, and then just throwing down an Agile, eating that breaker, dropping it, and then continuing with your attack string was fantastic. We're also playing 4 copies of Bridging the Races. After playtesting a bit, this card went up to 4. This card's just incredible. Just that once per turn ready ability, and then the +1/+1. Because really, when you're using Agile, and we're also using Ever Hopeful, this card was just great. And also Powerful Assassin will also trigger that once per turn. So it was really, really good. It was really, really easy to use this thing as card loop, use this thing as just extra numbers when you need extra numbers. It's also that 2+ block that we can grab with Powerful Assassin. Like, just this card just put in tons and tons of work. Gives you lots and lots of value, especially for the Barrage style deck that we're doing. We're running 4 copies of Lesser Half. This card just covers that low block base on the foundations that we can pick up. It's also a 0, so we can play it after doing spammy attack lineups. It's also just a little bit of damage when we start getting into the late game, and again, we're a little bit damage hungry in a Felicia deck, so this card really, it's just kind of a good card to have in there. We're running the 2 copies of Ever Hopeful because this card's ridiculous. Once you get momentum going, this thing's just incredible board control. It bypasses the anti-destruction cards. It's just really, really solid. You know, I wish I could justify running 3, but as a 7 hand sizer, I see this thing enough. So really, really solid. This thing paired with your A World Unprepared, it's pretty much your targeted committal or targeted control, sorry, that we're running in this deck. We're running 4 copies of Designed for Combat because deck thinning is game winning. Again, +2 that we can grab with Powerful Assassin. We can flip it over, Pockets Effect, grab it with Powerful Assassin, play it again just to keep getting this thing's effect off. Another spammy card's really solid, helps you dig for attacks, helps you dig for whatever you need to be digging for. Or 4 Balanced Fighters. Again, this thing just combos off really, really well with Design for Combat. fun stuff you can do with it. I was using it, committing it, then blocking an attack with it, and then using Powerful Assassin to pick it up, then discarding it with Design for Combat afterwards to draw 2 cards. Like, it was just really good defensive card. Just gave me some of that tech that I needed. And then again, it's a speed resetter, so it's really gonna, it just helps keep us alive, especially when you can sculpt your blocks, and we got lots of +1 blocks in this deck. It just really helps make sure we stay alive. We're also running the 4 Fulfilled in Battles because we have +1 blocks in every zone on a targetable attack for this thing. If you don't know what it does, I know it's a little bit quirky. After you make a control check to block with an attack that has a printed damage of 3 or less, that check gets +2, so it counts as 2. Add that attack to from your card pool to your hand during the end phase, so it just makes sure that your attacks stay in your hand. And that's really what we want to be doing. We want to make sure that every attack that we find, we can keep either in our momentum or we can keep in our hands using this kind of card. So really solid, helps us again stay alive, helps us keep our attacks where we want them, keep playing them afterwards. And then the last thing that we're running is 2 copies of Mary. This card just basically turns our speed into damage. It helps balance out the numbers because Felicia's just throwing random speed on stuff, and if they've already played out their blocks, then this thing just helps make sure that we're turning that speed into damage. So it just helps balance things. I wouldn't run 4 of it because on most of our attacks we're not going to get more than 3 speed on it, obviously, so we can't just like proc 4 copies of Mary ever. So 2 copies of Mary just really works out. And that is the Felicia deck. Things that really surprised me about the deck is how survivable it was. Just being able to, if you could predict what your opponent's attacks were, you could very easily just make sure that those were the attacks you were grabbing out of your momentum, using them to block with. It was just super handy. Between Powerful Assassin and Bounce and Roll, I could grab any block I wanted out of my staging area. That was pretty ridiculous as well. And then going into reprogramming kills, like I easily put 40 damage on the board on kill turns. It was pretty crazy. So that's the Felicia deck. Give it a try. It's a little bit more complicated than the J Talbane deck. It takes a little bit more setups. It takes a little bit more, a little bit more tempo plays. You got to build up your momentum by playing attacks and not even expecting any of them to hit. And then you still got to plan on your defensive strategy after that. And once you get your setup going, you just turn into this really aggressive monster that just puts great pressure on, right? Between your Surveyors and your Luminous, you can recur 2 to 4 attacks per turn, depending on how many Surveyors you get going. Like, it's just pretty disgusting. So give it a shot and tell me what you think. Not sure what I'm going to do for my next Pauper deck. Probably another one of the starters, but we'll see. If you got any requests, just send me a line and I'll do it. Until next time, this is Toy signing out.